Geography, history, politics, economy, culture, and daily life in one video. Brazil is the largest country in South America and one of the most famous names in the world, often associated with football, carnival, and the Amazon rainforest. But behind these images there is a much more complex story. In this video we will take a calm, neutral look at Brazil's geography, history, political system, economy, culture, and everyday life. Geographically, Brazil covers almost half of South America. It shares borders with nearly every country on the continent except Chile and Ecuador, and has a long Atlantic coastline to the east. The north of Brazil is dominated by the Amazon rainforest and the Amazon River Basin, one of the most biodiverse areas on Earth. The center includes savanna-like regions known as the Cerrado, while the south has more temperate climates with farms, grasslands, and forests. Brazil's population is over 200 million people, making it one of the most populous countries in the world and by far the largest Portuguese-speaking nation. The capital is Brasilia, a planned city built in the interior in the 1960s, while São Paulo is the largest city and economic powerhouse, and Rio de Janeiro is internationally famous for its beaches, mountains, and festivals. Other important cities include Belo Horizonte, Porto Alegre, Recife, Salvador, and Fortaleza. Brazil's modern history begins with Portuguese colonization. In 1500, a Portuguese expedition arrived on the coast, and over the following centuries Portugal claimed and settled large areas of the territory. The colonial economy was based at first on Brazil wood, then on sugar plantations, gold, and later coffee. Enslaved Africans were brought to Brazil in large numbers, making the country one of the main destinations of the transatlantic slave trade. As a result, Brazil's population today has deep indigenous, African, and European roots. In 1822, as political changes shook Europe and Latin America, Brazil declared independence from Portugal. Unusually, it became an empire under Emperor Pedro I and later Pedro II, rather than a republic at first. In 1889, the monarchy was overthrown and Brazil became a republic. The 20th century saw periods of democratic government, authoritarian rule, and military influence. In the 1930s and 1940s, Getulio Vargas led a strongly centralized government that promoted industrialization and nationalism. Later, between 1964 and 1985, Brazil was ruled by a military regime that restricted political freedoms, censored the press, and repressed opposition, while also pursuing rapid economic development. From the mid-1980s onward, Brazil returned to civilian rule and built a new democratic system. Since then, the country has held regular competitive elections, seen power alternate between different parties, and experienced both economic growth and political crises. Today, Brazil is a federal republic. The country is divided into states and a federal district, each with its own government, but united under a national constitution. The president is both head of state and head of government and is elected by popular vote. The National Congress has two chambers, the Chamber of Deputies and the Federal Senate. Multiple political parties compete, representing a wide range of ideological and regional interests. The judiciary includes a Supreme Federal Court that interprets the Constitution. Brazilian politics can be noisy and complicated, with coalition governments, corruption scandals, and protests appearing regularly in the news, but the basic democratic framework has remained in place since the 1980s. Brazil's economy is one of the largest in the world and very diverse. It is a major producer of agricultural goods such as soybeans, coffee, sugar, beef, poultry, and orange juice. The country also has significant mining operations, extracting iron ore, bauxite, and other minerals. Industrial sectors include automobiles, aircraft, steel, chemicals, textiles, and food processing. Services, including banking, retail, telecommunications, and tourism, make up a large share of the economy. At the same time, Brazil faces serious challenges. Income inequality is high, regional differences between richer and poorer areas remain strong, and economic growth has been uneven, with periods of boom followed by recession and high inflation. Everyday life in Brazil depends heavily on where people live and their social and economic situation. In big cities like São Paulo and Rio de Janeiro, many people live in apartment buildings or dense neighborhoods, commuting through heavy traffic by car, bus, metro, or trains. Modern business districts, shopping centers, and gated communities stand alongside favelas, informal settlements built on hillsides or in used land, where access to services such as sanitation, healthcare, and education can be limited. In smaller cities and rural areas, life may be more connected to agriculture and local industries, with a slower pace but fewer job opportunities. Family gatherings, barbecues, and watching football matches are common social activities across regions. Brazilian culture reflects centuries of mixing between indigenous peoples, Europeans, Africans, and later immigrant groups from places like the Middle East and Japan. The official language is Portuguese, but its accent and vocabulary are distinct from European Portuguese. Religion is diverse. Most Brazilians identify as Christian, with Roman Catholicism historically dominant, but there are also large Protestant communities and Afro-Brazilian religions such as Candomblé and Umbanda, which blend African, indigenous, and Christian elements. Religious festivals and processions are part of the calendar in many towns and cities. Music and dance are some of Brazil's best-known cultural exports. Samba, with its distinctive rhythm, is closely associated with Carnival and with Rio de Janeiro's samba schools, which prepare elaborate parades each year. Bossa Nova, which combines samba and jazz influences, became internationally famous in the 1950s and 1960s. Other styles such as forró, sertanejo, and funk carioca show the variety of regional and urban sounds. Football is almost a national language. Brazil has produced legendary players and has won the Men's World Cup more times than any other country. Children often play in streets and parks, and professional matches attract passionate fans across the country. Food is another key part of everyday life. A typical meal might include rice, beans, meat, and salad. One of the most famous dishes is feijoada, a rich stew of black beans and various cuts of pork, often served with rice, collard greens, and orange slices. Each region has its own specialties. The Northeast is known for dishes using dried meat and tropical ingredients, the South for barbecues called churrasco, and the Amazon for fish and fruits that are not found elsewhere. Street food such as pão de queijo, pastéis, and coxinhas is popular in cities and at festivals. The Amazon rainforest gives Brazil a unique place in global environmental debates. It is a vital ecosystem for biodiversity and climate regulation, but it has also been affected by deforestation linked to logging, cattle ranching, farming, and infrastructure projects. Inside Brazil, there are ongoing debates about how to balance economic development, the rights of indigenous communities, and environmental protection. Internationally, Brazil faces pressure to reduce deforestation and play a constructive role in climate policy, while also asking for recognition of its development needs. Brazil's society also faces issues such as violence, organized crime in some urban areas, racial inequality, and access to quality education and healthcare. At the same time, there are many efforts by communities, civil society groups, and institutions to improve conditions, promote inclusion, and protect rights. Brazilians are often described as resilient and optimistic, finding ways to celebrate life even in difficult times. For people watching from abroad, Brazil can look like a country of carnival, football, and the Amazon, but it is also a complex society with deep history, strong contrasts, and a rich cultural life. Understanding its geography, political system, economy, and the daily experiences of its people helps provide a fuller picture than stereotypes alone. This has been a quick overview of Brazil, a giant of South America. If you found this video helpful, please like the video, subscribe for more country profiles and neutral explainers, and tell us in the comments which country or topic you would like us to cover next.